Today I'm going to review some American history by going back to where the white racial identity was born. If this sounds like something you'd like to know more about and would like to be supportive of my efforts, please feel free to give me a like and a follow by subscribing to this channel. Now let's explore the creation of the white racial identity. The Jamestown colony had a society made up of elites, the planter class, and commoners. At this point, the elites were wealthy men from England who governed the colony. The planters were landowners who farmed. They were very important to the colony because they provided resources like food. Many would go on to become very wealthy. Then at the bottom, we have the commoners, who would eventually become indentured servants. In the early days, the elite class ruled over the commoners. Although the elites and many of the commoners were English, they didn't share a common identity. The elites would subject the commoners to abuses and oppression. Many laborers fled the colony to join nearby tribes or survive independently rather than work without personal gain. The colony's success required keeping its workforce, so the elites tried forceful measures, including public executions and burning alive people who were recaptured as warnings to others of what would happen if they tried to escape. The colonists weren't finding the gold that they'd hoped to find, but they turned to tobacco as their cash crop. And after the first harvest of tobacco in 1616, production surged 700% within a year. More and more colonists came to Virginia to get rich from growing tobacco on cheap land. As they moved in, they started taking over land that belonged to Native American tribes. And this is a detail you're going to want to remember for later. Commoners could secure loans to begin building their wealth by becoming planters. So the planter class grew larger each year. The planters and elites started looking for indentured servants from England, Ireland, and Scotland. The rise in tobacco production had a profound impact on Virginia's economy, and it encouraged immigration, increased investment in land, and gave people more opportunities. Throughout England, Ireland, Scotland, and other parts of Europe, poverty was rampant due to things like overpopulation and a lack of opportunity. Many people sought opportunities in the Americas to escape poverty and start a new life, maybe even strike it rich. To finance their trip and necessities such as food, men and women would enter into an arrangement with a colonist known as indentured servitude. Under this agreement, the indentured servant would agree to work for a specific amount of time, usually 4 to 7 years, in exchange for passage to America and food, clothing, and shelter while they worked. But they were often subjected to abuse, very little food, and long work hours. Africans arrived in Virginia in 1619 through Spanish territories, and many of them would also enter into these contracts. However, the planters would find ways to extend the contracts, which created forced servitude and further abuses. At Jamestown, African Americans and the European Americans lived side by side. At this point, racial differences were not divisive. They married, had children together, and others ran away together to join natives. The planter class was racially integrated too. Although small, there was a population of African American planters with their own servants. The colony continued to grow, resulting in a number of people outnumbering available land. The demand for cheap labor grew. The colony needed a sustainable workforce, laying groundwork for enslavement. A man named Nathaniel Bacon wanted to accumulate more land, and to do this, he formed a coalition of indentured servants and planter classmen, both English and African American. Together, they started an unauthorized war with two tribes in order to take their land. When the governor of Jamestown charged Bacon with treason, his coalition stormed Jamestown and burned it down. This was the Bacon Rebellion of 1676, and it forever changed our social order. Bacon briefly took control of most of Virginia, but he died at the age of 29 of influenza, ending the rebellion. There were still many armed multiracial freemen who were angry and frustrated. The elites were afraid of this coalition. They needed to take back control and maintain order, so they came up with an idea. Remember, the English Americans and other Europeans were not united. The class system, which was practiced throughout Europe, was transformed in colonial Virginia. After Bacon's rebellion, the elites implemented significant changes to prevent future uprisings by unifying through race. They created a racial hierarchy that gave poor whites legal and social privileges over Black and Indigenous people, including pardoning European Americans who participated in the rebellion while denying pardons to African Americans, denying African Americans basic rights like voting, holding office, and testifying in court, creating a militia to monitor African Americans and confiscating their weapons, and prohibiting the freeing of enslaved people. The new system created a racial divide by granting poor whites advantages over Black and Indigenous people despite their continued economic struggles. This protected the elites from future uprisings while enabling the legalization of slavery and control of the Black population. The American colonies rejected England's class based hierarchy, where people were defined by titles and wealth. But this was replaced with a racial hierarchy. As a result, even poor white Americans saw themselves as superior to people of color, who faced additional barriers to acceptance and advancement. This racial wealth gap persists today, particularly affecting Native and African Americans. Modern whiteness remains largely invisible to white people while being glaringly apparent to people of color and other marginalized communities. This invisibility helps maintain its power. White culture is often presented as simply normal or just American. Discussions about whiteness often create discomfort because they challenge the invisibility of whiteness and the assumed neutrality of white perspectives. If there's one thing white individuals could start doing today and moving forward that would help build more meaningful relationships with people from marginalized communities, it would be being mindful of their whiteness. It is the advice I would offer any one of my friends and neighbors. Check your whiteness. Be aware of the things you say around people who aren't white. Be mindful of how you react to them. Stop racializing people who aren't white so you can start seeing them as just normal people. For meaningful progress in addressing racial inequality, white people must acknowledge and examine their racial identity and its associated privileges. This includes understanding how whiteness shapes their worldview and experiences, recognizing that being white is not neutral or a default, but a specific racial identity with historic and cultural context, and taking active steps to challenge systemic racism while amplifying marginalized voices. Examining whiteness isn't about assigning blame. It's about understanding how our current racial dynamics came to be and operate in daily life. Only by acknowledging and understanding the construction and maintenance of white identity can we work towards genuine racial equity and justice. Understanding this history and the realities surrounding race helps us recognize similar patterns today, and it empowers us to work towards a more equitable future. If you found this video informative, please hit the like button and subscribe to join this new and growing community of learners and advocates. Don't forget to hit the notification bell to stay updated on new content exploring these important topics. Please share this video with anyone who might benefit from learning this history. The more we understand, the better equipped we are to create positive change. If you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer them in the comments. Please let me know what topics you'd like me to cover in future videos. I approach racial justice from an anthropological perspective, exploring the rich histories of different cultures and topics. Until next time, keep questioning, keep learning, and keep growing. Thank you.